What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. What's good? What's good? Back with another reaction video from the YouTuber/YouTube channel Showtime Nick. Fantastic content creator. Covers basketball, covers football, covers baseball, covers a wide range of sports. So he's very knowledgeable on a lot of sports topics, does his research, puts together great content. So definitely go check out Showtime Nick. As always, I'll put a link to his video in the description of this one. But definitely go hit that sub button, hit that bell. It's one of my homies right there. So he gave me the green light to react to one of his most recent videos, so I'm happy to check it out. Especially looks like he's paying homage and spreading or putting some spotlight on, you know, less popular players or forgotten players in the NBA. So we got right here the greatest shooter you never heard of. All right, that player would be Fred Brown. Now, I have heard of Fred Brown. Do I know a lot about him? No, I don't. And the only reason I know about Fred Brown is research I've done. Well, actually, the first time I heard about him was a long time ago when I think Russell Westbrook tied him for most points for a franchise, 58 points. I think. But even then, I didn't do any more research on them. You know, the ticker just popped up with the cool fact. But when I really started digging into this channel and learning more about the Boston Celtics, the Larry Bird, the 80s Boston Celtics, and then with that, learning more about DJ Dennis Johnson and how DJ won a championship with the Seattle Supersonics, and Fred Brown here was a member of that championship Seattle Supersonic team. Also, when the three-point line was implemented, now Fred was playing before the three-point line was implemented, but he was still playing when it got implemented. And the first year with a three-point line, Fred Brown led the NBA in three-point field goal percentage. I learned that too, just doing research on, you know, Larry Bird and the Celtics. So, but that's really all I know. I really don't know much more about him past that. He's a championship. He has a championship. He's a champion, rather. And, you know, he could shoot the ball. He could shoot the ball. And at times he can have, obviously, offensive explosions. But other than that, I don't know a whole lot about him. So let's see what Showtime Nick has for us. Enlighten us, Showtime. Enlighten us.
When we think of the greatest shooters of all time, we think of Stephen Curry, Ray Allen, and Reggie Miller. While these guys are very worthy of their praise, I bet you never heard of downtown Fred Brown. I personally believe he should be mentioned a lot more when we talk about the greatest shooters of all time, and that he would be a perennial all-star in today's space and pace game where the rules give perimeter players more freedom on offense. Brown didn't shoot a high volume of threes, but it's important to keep in mind that the three-point line was not implemented until his 9th season in the NBA when he was already 31 years old. It's not a fair criticism to downplay his shooting ability just by looking at his number of attempts because of the era he played in. Downtown Fred Brown got his nickname as a high school superstar for his outside shooting prowess before a three-point line was implemented, and he led Lincoln High School to 2 state titles and made All-State twice. He would be called Downtown for the rest of his basketball career. Brown would play 2 years at Iowa and averaged 27.6 points per game in his final year before being drafted by the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA and 6th overall by the Seattle Supersonics in the 1971 NBA draft. Before the NBA and ABA merger, many players were drafted by both the NBA and ABA, and they chose who they would play for based on factors such as salary, prestige, location, and personal preference. Brown elected to play for the Sonics. As a rookie, Brown didn't play much because Lenny Wilkens and Dick Snyder were the starting guards. Wilkins was a Hall of Famer as a player too, not just as a coach, and Dick Snyder, who I'm almost certain most people who are watching this never heard of, averaged 19 points per game that year. After Lenny Wilkins was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Brown saw more playing time and started averaging double-digit scoring numbers. After Dick Snyder was traded to the Cavs in 1974, Brown averaged 21 points per game and even had a 58-point game against the Warriors. This is a franchise record, by the way, and unlike when Russell Westbrook tied this record in 2017, this is not to knock what Russ did, but let's remember that there was no three-point line when downtown Fred Brown scored 58 points in a game. Slick Watts, who played alongside Brown on the Sonics at the time, believes that Brown would have scored 78 to 80 points in this game had he had a three-point line, since he didn't take too many layups. When Spencer Haywood, who's a Hall of Famer in case you didn't know, and was the Sonics' leading scorer every year since 1972, got traded to the New York Knicks in 1975, downtown Fred Brown became the leading scorer of the Sonics, was top 5 in steals per game, and was named an All-Star as the Sonics went 43-39. Brown was able to score 28.5 points per game in a losing effort to the Phoenix Suns in the semifinals, which at the time was the first round of the playoffs. In Game 2 of that series, Brown set a playoff franchise record 45 points while shooting well over 50% from the field. The following year, the team added Gus Williams and drafted Jack Sikma, both who would eventually become Hall of Famers. Dennis Johnson, who was drafted in the second round of the 1976 draft, was starting to emerge, but Brown was selfless enough to accept a lesser role. Even when he lost his starting job in the 1977-78 season under new head coach Lenny Wilkins, downtown Fred Brown was still an important part of the 1978 Seattle Supersonics that lost in 7 games to the Washington Bullets in the finals and winning the championship the following year as the guy who provided instant offense off the bench. In the 1978 finals, Brown even had a 30-point game, 26-point game, and a 21-point game while coming off the bench. In the 1979 playoffs, in which the Sonics won their only championship in franchise history, while Brown only played at least 30 minutes once throughout that playoff run, he made the most out of the playing time that he got. He may have not even scored 10 points per game due to playing just 15 minutes per game, but he scored 19 points per 36 minutes on 45% from the field. Until his very last season, Brown would still average double-digit scoring numbers for the rest of his career, even while only being a role player. In the first year the three-point line was implemented, downtown Fred Brown led the league in three-point percentage while shooting 44.3% from three. That year, even while Brown was coming off the bench at this point in his career and wasn't able to do it consistently anymore, he did have a 34-point game while shooting 15 for 21 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3 in Game 1 of the 1980 Western Conference Finals against the eventual champion Lakers in what was the beginning of the Showtime era. 17 of those 34 points came in the fourth quarter. Brown couldn't duplicate this in the following games, but that one game was enough for the Lakers to not ignore Brown, as they would bring in their best defensive player, Michael Cooper, every time Brown would enter the game. For his career, downtown Fred Brown shot 37.2% from 3 on less than 1 attempt per game. I'm certain that if the three-point line existed before he entered the NBA, he would have shot a very high percentage while attempting many more threes than he actually happened to attempt. Or if he played today, where 34 threes are attempted per game league-wide as opposed to under 3 attempts per game league-wide in the first 5 seasons in which the three-point line was implemented, which were the last 5 seasons of downtown Fred Brown's career. Considering he averaged 23.1 points per game at his peak before the three-point line was implemented, I think he could easily put up a scoring average in the high 20s today. When people say role players today are far better than the role players of the past, oftentimes they seem to not know much about the role players of the past, and that is why I want to make this video on downtown Fred Brown. He made an All-Star game once, but averaged over 20 points per game twice before the three-point line was implemented. If the three-point line had been implemented sooner, or if he came into the league long after the three-point line was implemented, he easily could have accomplished a lot more, especially in today's game. Brown was not just a spot-up shooter either. He had a really nice pull-up jump shot too. Brown was also a guy who moved really well without the ball, a skill that even many of the best players today don't do much of. Gus Williams has called Brown the best shooter he's ever seen, and Paul Silas has said his jump shot is the best looking shot he's ever seen. At the free throw line, Brown was a career 85.8% shooter, and at his best barely shot shot under 90%. Brown was not just a shooter either. He was capable of driving to the basket, so you really couldn't guard him too tight either. So next time you hear someone say the 70s was weak competition and a role player in today's NBA would be a superstar back then, you can show them this video. Imagine 50 years from now if people say a guy like Monte Ellis, who never made an All-Star game but averaged over 20 points per game 5 times in his career, wasn't any good. I can already imagine Pascal Siakam not being remembered by very many 50 years from now, even though he's a 2-time All-Star at the age of 29 and was the second best player on a championship team, because he's not in the same tier as LeBron James or Stephen Curry. It's best to at least educate yourself on lesser known players before trying to evaluate any era in any sport, especially for the ones you weren't around for, because only a few will be talked about in later decades. Although much of the younger generation most likely never heard of Downtown Fred Brown, I also think it's worth noting that the Sonics retired his number 2 years after he played his final game. That's where I'll wrap this up, so if you enjoyed this video, a like would be much appreciated. If you want to consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss another video, I'd love to have you as part of the team. Also, I encourage you to leave your comments down below. I'm more than happy to read all your comments. If this video does well, I may make this a series, the greatest so-and-so you never heard of. Please let me know if you want to see this become a series. Here's my last video and the one that YouTube recommends. I certainly appreciate it if you click either one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
You know, after Showtime said, after he mentioned the nickname Downtown Fred Brown, it clicked even more. I was like, I know I've heard that before. I've heard it. I've heard Downtown Fred Brown before. Yeah, great video by Showtime, Nick. Love people out here shedding spotlight on great players of the past, role players of the past, good players, anyway, players of the past, period. These players should not be forgotten as, you know, history becomes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and we continue to move on and truck into the future until the future becomes the present. Y'all know the drill. Just some other things to point out, like career highs by Downtown Fred Brown. His career high in rebounds is 14, pretty damn good. Assists, 15, pretty damn good. Steals, recorded 10 steals in a game. 10. And blocks 3. So those were some great career highs as well. No question about it. I was looking at it before Nick brought up the players mentioning and the coach mentioning, this is the greatest shooter I've ever seen, or has the best looking shot I've ever seen, best form. Well, y'all saw me. I was up here like this. I was like, that is a pretty stroke he got there. Then I was looking, I was like, yeah, buddy got a stroke. He do. And he was doing it from the video footage Nick provided. He was doing it from, you know, catch and shoot positions. And he was also doing it from isolation positions, bro. I saw him do a little dribble, you know, shimmy fadeaway kind of thing at times, or pull up on him with the ball handling. He could score in more than one way. Because, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot about him. You know, I've seen players score 50 points before without having to dribble or really do things in isolation. Klay Thompson isn't really an isolation player. You know, when Klay Thompson has had his big scoring outputs, a lot of it has just been catch and shoot, moving without the basketball, coming off the curls, catch, shoot, slashing, catching the ball, finishing with the layup, or stopping on a dime, pulling up. Ball handling and dribbling and creating for himself in isolation isn't one of Klay Thompson's strengths. It's not. Even when he was before the injuries, it never was. And even for what I've seen from Fred Brown, I think he has a better handle on the ball than what I've seen from Klay Thompson. Even, I know it's a small sample size that I've seen right now, but I can only evaluate what I've seen, and I'm sure the video footage is limited on a player like this anyway. Hell, video footage is limited on elite legendary players from back then, so you know you're not going to find a whole lot of Downtown Fred Brown footage. Showtime Nick definitely did him justice, and I like the context Nick puts about the three-point line. So he said, hold on, let me double check. I don't want to say anything. I thought I heard him one way, but let me double check. Yeah, I heard him right. So he shot, on a season, 44% from three-point land. on one 3-point attempt a game. And like he said, I agree with him 100%. If he was actually in an era where you were getting up 3-point shots on a consistent basis, you can bet your bottom dollar that that 3-point percentage is going to be higher. Basically, if he goes into a game and shoots his first 3-point shot, if he misses, that's it. That hurts his percentages because he's not getting any more shots up. He has no opportunity to get hot. Damn airplanes. He has no opportunity to catch a rhythm from 3-point land because it wasn't weaponized back then like it is now. So you can only imagine how much of a better 3-point shooter he would have been in today's era. His points are going up, his percentages are going up. He's going to be utilized more. There's some players that, they have their ability, their career has really been affected by the era they play in, for better or for worse for some players. I agree with Nick 100 and a million thousand bajillion percent. Some people are like, no, that only hurts his percentages. Like, no, man. How many times do you see players in today's NBA miss their first one or two, even three, their first 3-point shots, and eventually they catch hot, hit 4 in a row, hit 5 in a row? And now it's like, oh, he had a great 3-point performance that game. But if that was back in the day, those first 3 misses were a wrap. That would have been it. Anyway, salute to the boy, Showtime Nick. Appreciate you, homie. Thank you for recommending your own videos to me. Greatly appreciate it, my guy. Like I said, go check him out. He puts out great content, especially if you're a lover of all sports. Go check it out. Very knowledgeable, provides great context, provides great facts and insight, and really does his research. He does more research than me. I think I do decent research. Yeah. Y'all let me know what you think about it. What do you think about Fred Brown? Did you get to see him play? You remember watching him play? What do you think about him? Do you agree with Nick's points? If you agree with Nick's points, you agree with my points. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.